Good morning. It is day 35 of Flippin Live. I'm Andrew from 510 Books, and today we're going to do Q&A. So let's get started.
Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live. We're gonna strive, we're here to learn, we're gonna earn. Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, we're flippin' live.
Good morning, guys. Hello. Terry says, do you notice that books, here, I'll just put it up here. Do you notice that books you list as very good still do well, even if you price them above the good books? Or do you kind of price the same whether they're good, very good, or like new? Let's see. I usually price, if I ever have very good, I usually price it a little bit above the good price, maybe $1 or so. It also depends on the listing and how people are pricing on the listing. If everyone's just slamming their prices together regardless of condition, then I might do the same, but I try to price a little bit higher if it's very good than a good condition book, or a little lower if it's good than a very good condition book. I honestly don't, I don't follow that closely to find out whether or not that makes a difference or not. But to me, it makes sense for all booksellers to do that, because if a copy is nicer, it should go for a little more money, right? Makes sense. Condition, like we were talking about yesterday about rare collectible books, that if the book is in better condition, it goes for more money, so it makes sense. However, I found that hardly anybody follows that on listings. That most sellers, because there are so many sellers who just want to they just care about making money as quickly as possible. They don't follow those guidelines. But I try to do that. Try to price a little higher, a little lower based on conditions, basically. Good morning, Brenda. How you doing? Um, that's the problem with. So this is Q&A, guys. I don't have a theme, so I'm gonna need your help to participate in the chat and ask questions, and interact. Otherwise, yeah, it's not going to be as. Uh, anyway, let's get some chat going here. So if you have questions, comments, anything about how your reselling business is going, whatever you want to talk about, that's fine. About reselling, let's stick to reselling. So, yeah, that's the thing about Amazon, is a lot of new sellers constantly coming on there, especially booksellers, because like I've talked about in the past, book selling on Amazon is so easy in the sense of there's low barriers to entry. You don't have to qualify for anything. You just need to open a seller account. So have a checking account, open a seller account, go out and find some books. You can pull them off your shelf even. You can go get friends and family, whatever, go to the thrift store, get a shipment together, learn how to list FBA, let's say. I'm talking about FBA. And ship it box in, and there you go, right? It's pretty straightforward stuff. You just got to learn the minor details of how to start that process. So it's pretty simple, which is great for newbies to start to make money. But that's the problem, that so many can do it. And I wish there were statistics on what percentage of people that start selling books on Amazon actually last longer than a few months. Because I see constantly new accounts, especially now listing books on Amazon a lot. These last 2 days, I've listed, let's see, almost like 140 books or so that for FBA. And it's amazing to me how many newer sellers that have 0 feedback ratings, 1, 2, less than 10 feedback ratings. So if you have zero, one, or two, you've only been selling, maybe sold a couple hundred books or so. So these are really new people. And if you have zero feedback ratings, there's also a chance that you haven't sold anything. Um, Terry's trying reprice. It's intelligent repricing, which tends to automatically price in tiers based on condition. Okay. I've never used reprice it, but yeah, hopefully that works. Um, I mean, to me, it makes sense that if a book is if a book's new, that should be the most expensive, of course, Amazon, or if somebody has a new copy, like new should be more, that's like new is essentially new. It's just not directly from the publisher, right? It's the same condition as a new book essentially. It's just if you were to look at like new and new, you probably couldn't tell the difference. So like new is essentially new. So that should be priced higher. Very good. Should show some minor wear, but hardly anything. Maybe just minor stuff. Like it's been on a shelf. It's been read maybe, but it doesn't show that much wear. Good. It clearly can show a lot of wear. There can be a spine that can be cracked. There can be some dog-eared pages. There could be some highlighting. Um, you know, I mean, I could find the Amazon guidelines, but it can be in pretty rough shape. Good. Just make sure that all the pages are there. Make sure that the cover's intact. Make sure that the spine is intact. All that stuff. Acceptable can be pretty bad. Like the cover can be creased. It can be really what you would call corner bumps. Like the book has been dropped. Actually, that could be good too. But yeah, so it just makes sense that there would be tiers of prices that that as you go up the ladder of condition, that the price of the book should be higher. Unfortunately, a lot of resellers either don't care or are clueless about it. It would seem to me that it just would make logical sense to me. Same thing as if you walked into a used bookstore and they had two copies of the same book, let's say two hardcover copies as an example, and they both had that dust jacket, but one had the dust jacket was much more shabby condition. Um, Maybe the pages had some dog ears, maybe there was a little bit of highlighting or underlining, that kind of thing. Well, let's say the nicer version, a very good version, maybe let's say is $8, and then the other version is maybe $4. Just as an example, I mean, it makes sense, right? You as a buyer, I mean, if I were to walk in a used bookstore and I saw two copies of the book I wanted, and I saw one that was going for a little more money, it was in much better condition than the other that was going for less money. Well, do I want to save money and I don't care about the condition so much, or do I want to spend a little bit more money and because I care about the condition and I'll take care of the book, keep it to make sure and keep it in that condition so that when I'm done reading it, I can put it on my shelf and have a nice copy? Or do I just want a copy and I don't care and I'll pay a little bit less money? So they have the option. To me, it makes sense. um, to me, it makes sense to price that way, but I don't know what a lot of other resellers are thinking on Amazon. That they're just thinking, just get the next sale no matter what. Just always match the lowest offer, even if you have a nicer copy. And sometimes you just have to wait. Even if a book is selling pretty often, uh, I'll price it a little higher, even if the condition is good and there's another good condition book or two that I feel the price is too low, I'll price a little higher and just wait to get a little bit more money. Um, than just trying to, like, some people, they try to, some FBA sellers, newer FBA sellers especially, but even older ones, but will chase the lowest merchant fulfilled offer as if they need to compete with that, not seeming to understand that prime buyers will spend more money, generally speaking, on a book or any item, uh, because they want to take advantage of the prime benefits of 2-day free shipping and no hassle returns and all that stuff, and the comfort that comes with being a prime buyer. So it doesn't always behoove you to just price at the very bottom just to sell quickly when you can make another buck or $2 or $3. Sometimes it's a ridiculous amount of difference between that lower, one or two lower tiered priced books than what you could price it at, and just have to be patient. If you're really unsure about whether you're going to be doing this for very long, then who cares, right? Unfortunately. But if you're going to do this for the long term, if you're planning on really trying to build a book business on Amazon, then think long term and think that your inventory doesn't all have to be super quick turnover books, an FBA, but you can have books that take a little bit longer, that could take, instead of taking a week to sell it, you could wait a month or two to make a little more money. And as you build up the inventory and you have more and more of those books, you'll start seeing those sales every day the longer you are doing it, sending in books basically. Terry says, how do you approach feedback rating? Since I have 100% rating, I don't like to reprice against sellers with a rating less than 90%. To be brutally honest, I don't even pay much attention to that. Kudos to you for having 100%. I think mine, don't know where mine is right now. It's in the 90s. Trying to figure out how I would do that. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. I don't really, hold on. I'm trying to log into my account so I can, okay. I'm curious to see where I know it's in the high 90s, I believe. Let me see. Manage inventory. Active. Amazon. There. I just want to see where my inventory, or what I 98. So I have 577 feedback ratings and I'm at 98%. Anyway, so how do you approach feedback rating? Since I have 100% rating, I don't like to reprice against sellers with a rating less than 90%. Oh, you mean because you feel that you can get more money? Is that what you mean by that? I don't know. I don't really think about it. I don't really know what you mean, Gary. Terry. Do you mean because you feel that they will? I'm not sure, but I mean, my feedback rating has. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't even. Oh, California book bag. That it doesn't. It doesn't matter that much. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that, but let me know. In terms of feedback rating in general, I mean, you definitely don't want to have, 80, 70% feedback rating. That's terrible. Then something is wrong. Either a customer gave you a really negative feedback rating that's not warranted, and you should get that taken off, or you are not doing it correctly, as in you are possibly sending in books. Just as an example, with books that are not in the right condition, you're sending in acceptable books and listing them as very good, or you're sending in the wrong copy of books, the wrong version, or something's missing. Although, what would be missing in a book? Maybe the dust jacket is not there, and you didn't say that it wasn't there. Usually, it has to do with the condition, though. So I do see some sellers, amazingly, that have. I mean, I'll just randomly look here. These are all CDs, though, but here's one. I'm going to look to see where the sellers are, other FBA sellers. Let's see. Oh, well, this one doesn't really apply. 97%. I need to reprice that. Oh, these are not the right kind here. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I've seen resellers where Terry says, as a buyer, I know I'd never buy anything from a low-rated seller. Yeah, yeah, probably not. No, I don't think about that. I mean, I mean, I price it where I feel the. I mean, occasionally I will see another FBA seller that has a really low rating, and depending on where that price is, I will. It depends on where the price is. I mean, for me, it makes more sense. For me, what's more important is pricing it the way that I feel it will sell quicker. I mean, within reason, right? A realistic price, I guess, where I feel that I could get that book to sell at that price, and it will. Well, just that it won't take as long, I guess. But no, that's not something I really consider that much. I don't see it that often where other feedback ratings are so low. I mean, it happens sometimes, but most of the time people are in the 90s, I see. But no, it's not something I pay too close attention to. I see there's some other people in the chat. So this is a Q&A, Saturday Q&A. So if you're here, don't be shy. Please participate, ask questions, comment. As we don't have I don't have a theme today, so the idea is to answer your questions, if I can, to help each other, to comment, to share knowledge, that type of thing. Um, so that's the format for today. So don't be scared to chat, to say hello, to participate. Yeah, I mean the feedback rating. Like when I first started, I was always I mean, just speaking to it in general, I didn't really. I was always. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I was thinking, oh, I have to, because initially I kept the 100% rating, and then over time, it was after a couple of years, I got my first negative rating, and then I don't remember exactly what my first negative rating was, or if I was able to get it taken off, but eventually some things happened that Amazon was not willing to take off. Like I think maybe it had to do with a CD where they said that they had received the CD and the CD was actually broken or cracked, and they were angry about it. When I know that when I sent it out, the CD was perfectly good condition. It wasn't wasn't cracked, wasn't scratched. There wasn't any issue with it, and so clearly something happened during the shipping process. Uh, it was mishandled somehow. Someone in the warehouse, or but for the actual CD, the disc to be cracked means that it had to really be destroyed. So someone in the warehouse dropped it, ran over it with a forklift, whatever, and then just put it back, or it was being shipped to the customer, and the excuse me, well, sorry, and the carrier, mangled the CD somehow. But I tried to get it taken off, and I responded to the person who had left the negative comment saying, I always send, I didn't send a CD that was broken. It happened during the mailing process, but they never responded, because buyers can have the option to turn off getting email responses, which makes no sense from sellers. And so either they didn't care, they didn't respond, or they didn't receive the email, and then Amazon sided with them. So those kind of things happen. That Amazon will side with the buyer over the seller, and there's nothing much you can do about it. As long as you are running an honest business, reselling business, and you're not trying to trick people, and your inventory is, honest, then you should be fine. Even if you get a couple negative dings, if it's not your fault. As long as your feedback rating is, I would say at least, like, generally speaking, doing FBA 95 to 100%. If you can start getting down to 90% lower, then I think there's an issue. But if you can stay like I've stayed basically around like 97 to 99%. I'm right now at 98%. And honestly, I stopped really paying attention to it, which you consider good or bad, I guess. Yeah. Says it says in 12 months I have 2% negative, and then lifetime 1% negative out of 577 feedback ratings. See, there's this person that left a comment and said CD case was scratched. Are you kidding me? Of course it's going to be scratched. What do you think? You're not buying like new. What? I mean, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. CD case was scratched, but the booklet and CD itself was in mint condition. Well, it's a used. I don't sell new CDs. I hardly ever sell like new. If it's like new, it's sealed. So my CDs are not sealed. CD case was scratched. It's good condition. I mean, sometimes they'll have cracks on the CDs. Rarely now do I do that. This is what I'm talking about. But I got a positive review from them, or rating, I should say. Okay, good. So there's more people. Manny says, I stopped limiting competing offers based on feedback because of the increased use of phone purchases and buy box clicks. People aren't detail searching. Oh, phone. Oh, I see. Through your phone, I see. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. People order through their phone and they don't bother reading the condition notes. They just click on the buy box. Brenda says, or the buyer lied for a free disc. It's possible. I don't doubt it. Yeah, I don't doubt that people would lie about that, unfortunately. But uh, it's going to happen anywhere. It's going to happen on Amazon. It's going to happen on eBay. And on Amazon, they're more likely to side with the buyer, unfortunately, than the seller. That's why I like eBay, where they really seem to consider everything, and they're a little better with that type of thing. Uh, yeah. So uh, have you guys been able to source? Those of you that are going to thrift stores and that type of thing, have things open to a certain degree to where you're able to source every day now? I'd be curious to know. Um, I have not been doing that because fortunately I've still been dealing with my donations, which I've gone through all of them now. I just got, so as of yesterday morning, I finished going through all of my book donations that I had received. I still have some records that were donated to me that I have to go through. But in terms of the books, I went through everything and organized them, sorted them, and all that stuff. Oh, I have another thing I wanted to bring up too. Let me write that down. And yesterday, so what's today? So Thursday, I got a message from a woman saying that she had 300 books to donate to me because of my ad, which ended yesterday. My ad ended yesterday. So I'll take a breather from that. And 300, she said good condition books. And it turns out she wasn't lying. So I went there yesterday morning at 9:30 a.m. And drove out there, and she had 3 tubs full and this giant like laundry bag, like thick laundry bag full of books. And she said, she offered me the information. She said, yeah, these are from my former career. I guess she had retired because her husband had a stroke, and so she was taking care of him at home, and she has all these books from her career. She was some sort of therapist. I can't remember exactly what she said, but a lot of the books were related to her career, which as a reseller is a very good thing because they're nonfiction, number one, and they're very niche specific, and it's towards a certain profession. So I immediately, my ears perked up when she said that while I was loading in the books to my car. I was like, oh, this could be good, because you never know. I hear 300 books and I'm like, oh, well, are they all mass market paperbacks? Are they all, John Grisham's or whatever? So, you never know. So when I heard that, and it turns out that the overwhelming majority of them, like easily over 90% of them, were nonfiction. So as I it was interesting because I picked him up and drove back to the warehouse. Excuse me. I had just had to sort through some other books before, but I finished sorting through those, which was very tedious because I had to look up a lot of them on eBay. They were older books, and that's a pain. But I went through those, and then I got to those books, and I scanned through all of them, and there were a lot of them. There easily were 300, and it turns out that I found 49 that were good for FBA and 5 or 6 that I have. 6 for merchant fulfilled, so over 50 books, which was really great. And it ended up being that I shipped out all of those books yesterday, the FBA books, and the profit's gonna be pretty nice. So anyway, so that was nice. That was a pleasant surprise. I saw a lot of books that are third, fourth, or sometimes okay. Terry said I saw a lot of books that are third, fourth, or sometimes fifth down the page. Feedback and recognition seems to be the only variables that could account for that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, feedback or your condition note. Yeah. Brenda says you haven't sold on eBay long enough. They always side with the buyer. Huh. Well, I've sold on there for 3 years and I've sold a lot of stuff. But I definitely haven't been on there for 10 years or anything like that. Um, I've really liked eBay. I haven't had any issues. I haven't had any issues by and large with them. And also, I like that I don't have to deal with eBay directly that much. I can just deal with the customer if there's an issue. Like lately, the issue has been packages arriving late or packages not being scanned. This is an issue where apparently certain post offices, which I'm finding out, either they do this all the time, or I think what's happening is because they've been so inundated with packages because of the quarantine and people, so many more people, well, resellers selling so much more, and just people in general using the post office so much more, that they are not scanning the packages when they are delivered to the post office. I know this is happening with my local post office, which I use. I basically use one post office all the time to drop everything off, and it's a bigger one than the one that's actually in my city. It's a city over, and so they got way more. They have way more parking, way more space. It's so much better than the other one, which is tiny. If there's only street parking, it gets jam packed. It's no good. But the other one is much better, much larger facility. I know now, or I know that I figured out that you drop off a package and they will not necessarily scan it. They will just keep it moving through the process, and then, which is weird to me, but I guess they look at where it goes, and then based on that, they sort it out that way, but they don't scan it in. And so sometimes it won't get scanned in until it actually arrives in the city where it's supposed to be delivered, and then they'll scan it in, and then suddenly the person will get the package. But it'll show on the tracking history that it's not actually been scanned in yet, as if I just printed out the label, packaged it up, and just have it at my house for 5 days, and I'm not taking it to the post office. So anyway, that's been the issue that I've seen. And so that's happened a few times where I dropped off like these 4 boxes and none of them were scanned in, but my other items were scanned in that I dropped off that were in envelopes. And then suddenly the person got the package after I had messaged them, and they said, "Oh, thank you so much. I just got my DVDs," or whatever. So, uh, anyway, so back to the books. Have any of you guys heard of? I believe it's called Piggy Book from Discover Books. It's basically a book buyback program. I'd be curious to know if any of you are using any book buyback programs. This one, it's a scanning app. I was contacted through somebody through Discover Books, and so I just did it as a fun run through to see. Um, oh, okay. So I did it. Whoopsie. So this is the. I want to show you the interface, although it's not much of an interface. Where's settings? Display. This is what it looks like. And you just hover it over the barcode and it just automatically scans it. I don't know. Oh, Brenda, are you saying about the piggy book one? Okay. And then Terry says, in my area, all thrift stores are now open, but all libraries still closed. Yeah. I believe I know of at least one thrift store that's open in my area. I'm sure others are open too. Um, so piggy book it's just buyback. There's other ones. There's like sell back your book or something. There's multiple ones. This one is through Discover Books, which is a big bookseller. I mean, they have their own website, Discover Books. Let's see, Discover Books, Amazon. Discover Books is on Amazon, and they've got they have 91% positive. They have 2,599 positive or reviews rather. Let's see. Well, anyway, there they are. Discover Books, 21,515. So they're selling merchant fulfilled. So they're looking for these books. So anyway, so I scanned through all. As I said, I got about 300 book donations yesterday from one person, from the lady that I was very thankful for, and I scanned through all of them for FBA merchant or for Amazon, and I found 55 right between FBA merchant fulfilled. So I was left with roughly 200 plus books, 250 books. And so then I went through all of them and I scanned with this piggy book thing, and majority of them they rejected, but they did, as you can see here, I did end up with $13 of 19 items, $13.07, which is something. Here it has a cart. There we go. So here it shows the cart of all the items, the books, and so far here, I mean, some of these it pays good money. 88 cents, 78 cents, 71 cents, 37 cents. So remember, these are books that I cannot make a profit on individually on Amazon, and it's unlikely that I could do it on eBay, and I would rather not, unless it's going to go for good money, right? Unless it's going to go for $15, $20. Just the eBay process is so much more lengthy. I would rather only put higher, $20+ books on there by and large. So I'd rather ones with barcodes. If I can get some money for them, it's a good thing. I mean, these are books that that I just couldn't make money on any other way. Well, I could sell locally in my store, but some of them just don't. They might not move either. So 28 cents for one, 90 cents, 53 cents, 62. The most here, I got another one, 92, 86. These are almost $1 for these books. There's one here that's $1.12. That's really nice. And so what happens with this, whoopsie, from what I understand, is you scan them all in, and you tap cash out, pack your books, and then what they will do. So I'm assuming that you have to, because it's similar to doing declutter, is then you have to weigh out your box of books, send them that information, and they send you a prepaid label. So once they receive the books, I'm assuming that they look them through to make sure they're not destroyed, and then they will send me the payment. But this is a good option. I haven't used them yet, so I don't know yet how the whole process works, how smooth it is or unsmooth it is. But I did use Declutter years ago for CDs, and then I stopped because their payment, what they were paying for them, went way down. And I also just didn't like, they're such a huge seller, and they love to just scrape the bottom of the barrel and undercut everybody. So I stopped supporting them, but this is a good option for books because I get so many books now, and I'm going to be buying like 2,000 books in 2 weeks from the bookstore that are going to be taken out of storage. So it's a good way with books that have barcodes to try to make some money off of them. So yeah, I know there's other buyback programs where you can do that, and I know a lot of bulk sellers will actually make some good money if they're doing gaylords or bulk. And so I'm going to start doing this as well to try to monetize a lot of excess books that I can't necessarily make money on. I can't make money on individually, and might not make sense to go into some sort of book lot. It's just not worth it, and that I don't feel would be really popular in my local sale. The other thing is, I'm coming back from quarantine, and my local sale, I still have to build that up. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on getting a lot of people to come for books. So I'm not at the point where I can really sell tons of books yet. So I've got to take advantage of these types of things and so this is exciting to me because I do have some other books that I've stacked up in certain categories, and I'm going to see if any of them are worth money and have a chance to go through all of them with this app to see if it makes sense or if there's going to be worth any money. Ba, 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 ba. Any other questions? Let's see what else is going on. I did all that repricing with new price. When was that video that I did? Was that Monday or something like that? Earlier this week, and my Amazon sales have been consistent. I mean, they've done well. So I'm wondering. That's the thing is I don't know. That's the thing about repricing is it's hard to tell whether or not it made a difference or if it's just normal sales. But I feel that it made a difference because I did have, my sales did seem to go up a little bit. And I can't 100% attribute that to repricing with new price, being able to reprice so many at a time. But just looking at my Amazon app now, yesterday I had a bump in sales amount, but yeah. Anyway, so we'll see. And yesterday I sent in a box, and then Thursday I sent in 4 boxes for FBA, 3 larger boxes and a smaller one because I got a split, as I was telling you yesterday. 9 items went to a different warehouse. I can't remember where, but anyway. So all those items should be hitting, should be going, excuse me. Wow. Should be live next week. So that'll be nice. It's really nice to get the Amazon machine running again and not just do so much eBay, that's for sure. Here we go. Brenda, thank you for the question. Did you decide to operate the bookstore? Well, we are in negotiations right now. Good question. These are good questions, Terry. Give me a second. I'll get to yours. You decided not to operate the bookstore? So I have been thinking about it. I talked to my wife. My wife is very realistic, and so she helped me think through and talk through this process. Brought me down a peg or two, just laying out how she feels that I should approach this, and I think she had some really good points. So at this point, I'm at the point to where I might be taking over it looks like I'm going to be taking over the bookstore, and I will end up having to hire somebody to run it. But here's how the deal might go. It's essentially, the bookstore is in a great location for a bookstore, and it's already been there for almost 15 years. However, it's been closed during quarantine, and even a few years before that, about 3 years before, the business had gone down because of a lack of new inventory, and the woman who was running it was, she was older and she wasn't able to replenish the inventory. She had volunteers helping her out, definitely was not marketing the business, not utilizing Facebook or online presence. Um, so it had gone down. But basically, anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about that, but essentially, yeah, I'm thinking about running it for sure. I want to turn it into a an asset, and I'm going to essentially buy the inventory off of her, but not pay her up front and pay her off over a year's time, essentially, because there is a lot of inventory, and it's difficult for me. She doesn't have any idea how much it's worth because she's not a bookseller. She's a daughter, and she doesn't run that business. And I don't know how much it's worth, to be honest. I'd have to go through it thoroughly and find out. You know, there's over 10,000 books. Just by a cursory look at them, there are some that could be worth some money. However, the ones that I saw were not, they were long tail eBay type books um, that could be worth some money. I just looked at a handful of books. You know, there's over 10,000 books there. So I did not really dig in. Although I did see a lot of books that, not a lot, but I saw some books just by looking through the stacks that shouldn't be on the shelves that I don't feel people will buy. That there would be better served to put different books up. So essentially, if I do take it over, we will be uh, I will be essentially buying the inventory. But paying it off over time, like a year or so, and then I own all the inventory. That's how I would like to go forward, because otherwise, come on, B. Because otherwise, I want there to be an endpoint. Basically, I whatever the amount is we come to that we agree on for the inventory, um, and then I pay it off, and then it's mine. Uh, and all the sales, everything is going to be going to me, not to her mother, or anything like that. So yeah, this is going to be something that I'm going to have to hire somebody to run it. It's a whole different endeavor. So yes, I'm keeping the idea open to doing that. Terry says, as a one-man book business like me, how do you organize your time and schedule to make sure you get everything done while still not totally exhausting yourself or burning out? Um, Good question. So, I mean, I probably don't do the best job of making sure I don't burn out. I work too much on my business, and I struggle with just being done with it for the day, kind of a thing. And that is the super downside of doing it all by yourself. There's always something else to do, unless you're running a business where I know you're doing just Amazon. So, if you have nothing else to ship out, then you're done. If you have nothing to list, then you're done. If nothing's open to go source, then you're done, right? But if you're not doing that and you always have extra stuff, then you might feel like, oh, I still got to list those items, or I still have to get that shipment out, or I still have to go to this store today, or whatever. So, I mean, my advice to anybody would be to set a schedule and try to stick to that. That once you're done, for the day, you're done at a certain time, and you don't go into the night working, or only work, that you do other things too. I mean, for me personally, because I have young kids and my wife and our house and all that, I, like, for instance, on the weekends, I don't really work on the weekends now. I used to try to finagle my way to work here and there on the weekends, where I'd sit to list a bunch of stuff on eBay, or I'd photograph a bunch of things, or let me go down to the warehouse for an hour or two. Let me do this, let me do that. So it's only things like, oh, I've got to ship this thing, maybe take this thing to the post office, or donations, right? Like, I've had donations on the weekends, but I don't go through the items that day. I don't, list anything. It's just, oh, well, someone's dropping these donations off. We have to meet them, and that's it. The donations stay in the warehouse, close it up, go home, or go off, do something else. Or I go pick up donations, bring it to the warehouse, drop it off, or just leave it in the car until Monday. So for me, it's been a challenge. I mean, I've been doing this on my own since 2014. And in the beginning, it was just Amazon. It was just going to thrift stores, garage sales. I used to go Friday and Saturday to garage sales and estate sales and library book sales for years. So I used to do Saturday all the time for library sales, and that would eat into the weekend. And now I don't do that hardly ever. Last year, or no, this year in February, I went to one with the family. Actually, we went. It was about 25 miles away, actually in a city where I used to live, Altadena, which is right next to Pasadena. I went to that one, and that was a big one, pretty big one. That's where I found some of that older stuff that I was telling you about the other day. Excuse me, older books. So I don't really do that anymore. I basically just work during the week, but I would say it is difficult to have balance, to not burn out, and that type of thing. But I would suggest, like for me, I'm the most productive in the morning. I mean, I'm doing this live stream now. So this is good for me though, in terms of it gets me up earlier and gets the day going. But this is an hour chunk of time, which I'm enjoying. But this, normally like before this, I was probably not getting up as early. But it's good. You should get up at a certain time, eat your breakfast, and then get out the door if you're going sourcing or get to listing or whatever. I mean, you should probably set a schedule and stick to it, and then let yourself have some downtime. That would be my suggestion. Where I've always wanted, not always, but for years now, where I've wanted to go with my business is to go beyond me. I've just been too scared, fearful of losing control, of having to be responsible for someone else. So that's why I haven't hired somebody yet. To be honest, to be blatantly honest, it's a scary prospect to hire somebody because I have to pay them money. I have to show up when they show up to work. I have to show them how to do the job, make sure they do it right. I have to make sure they're doing it right, make sure that they're honest, make sure that they're on time, all that kind of stuff. And then I have to relinquish control of certain things because they're doing it. Train them, all those things. So that's what I've wanted to do. I've just hesitated for a long time. And before I got the warehouse, I said, well, when I get a warehouse, I definitely need to hire somebody to list. And I still do. My Okay. Hey, say hi. Come here. Here's my son. Say good hi. All right. All right. He's turning 5 next week, by the way. Big boy. And so so that's what I've thought about for a long time for the warehouse is once I get the warehouse, and I got into it at the end of October of last year, and my first sale in November, that I'll get the internet, which I still have yet to do. I'll set up my other computer that I have here, which I still have yet to do. I'm always procrastinating, putting it off, so that I can have someone actually help me and list, and so I can do more. I've got, I don't even know how many, dozens, maybe at this point now with all the book lots, I've probably got like 50 plus, probably more than 50, maybe 70 items to list. Yeah, on eBay. And eBay for me is the listing on eBay. So from photographing to actually listing is my least favorite thing to do. Then my next least favorite thing to do is listing on Amazon, but I much prefer Amazon because it's quicker, more efficient. There's a whole process. There's lots of tools. eBay, you got to take those photographs. At least I prefer than using a stock photo. Take the photographs, upload them to the computer, and then you got to do the listings. Even though I have templates, even though it can go a little faster, it's still, for me, not enjoyable. So I've wanted to do that, and I still have yet to do it. So if I do end up doing this deal with this woman for the bookstore, I'm going to have to hire somebody because I cannot do that. I cannot run it. So I'm going to have to hire somebody to run that bookstore, even if we're only open 3 days a week to start. And that's probably going to propel me to hire somebody to list for me as well. So anyway, I kind of got off the rails there, but yeah. Have you checked with the landlord about the lease requirements? Brenda asks. What do you mean lease requirements? So currently, the current person who's leasing it is well, I assume it's with the mother. Anyway, the mother or the daughter has it. I don't know what do you mean by lease requirements? So the location has been a bookstore since, I don't know. It's been almost 15 years. It's been like 14 years, 15 years, something like that. And the landlord, owner, whatever, they had a good relationship with the woman, who and the her husband who had passed away. For a long time, they had a good relationship and that type of thing, and they really love that there's a bookstore there for the community. It's in an area that is very trendy, especially it's become more trendy lately in the last decade or so. A lot of businesses popped up there. There's a couple of restaurants right next to it. There's a vintage clothing store right down the street. There's a concert venue where bands show up, singers, group, entertainers, and they would come into over the years, they would come into the bookstore, after they've been on their tour bus for a while. They want to walk around, they walk in the bookstore, buy books, sign copies of their CDs, leave them, chat, that kind of thing. So it's kind of like that whole environment. There's a record store down the street. There's another sort of like lending library bookstore slash community space down the street as well. Then across the street, like there's this whole vintage antique row, I guess you would say, with all these antique shops. And there's a and there's other restaurants. So it's a location that's pretty good for that. But I don't know what should be my lease requirements. Let me know if you're here, Brenda. But I look at it as a long-term potential business opportunity, to have somebody running it for me. And I don't have a retail space. My warehouse, more and more of it is becoming is being taken over for my local sale, which is fine because that's really what I wanted to use it for. I wanted to have a little bit of space to sort stuff and store some stuff, but by and large, I wanted that warehouse to be for my local sale that I want to grow to a big scale. Like I was saying the other day before quarantining. Huh?
Have you seen a little tape? Because
Oh,
it's not in
no, Papa. I don't know. Ask Mom. Bianca.
Ya se fue.
Okay, ask Bibi.
Ella no sabe.
Okay, I don't know. Anyway, lost my train of thought. Oh, the landlord can keep or change the conditions of the lease, such as monthly rent. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. So they've I see a couple more people have joined us. This is Q&A. Feel free to say hello, to chat. We're talking about my potential taking over a bookstore. Anyway, I see there's a couple new people. So participate in the chat, ask questions about reselling. Yes, they can change the rent, but they have barely changed the rent over the 15 years to where I don't want to tell you how much it is, but the rent is pretty low for retail space. And I don't know. They've kept it low. I guess they don't need to. They own the building, the whole building, and there's multiple businesses there. So I don't have no idea what they're charging other businesses. I mean, there's a restaurant there that's a much bigger space than the one that the bookstore is. The bookstore is very long and very narrow. I don't know how much square footage it is. It's got the bookstore and then here. And then it's got a back room that you can use that's sort of off limits to the public that they were using as like storage. They had a microwave, there's a bathroom back there. Let's see. Oh, did I erase them? No way. Oh, it wasn't with my camera. Never mind. It's on my wife's camera. I took pictures of the bookstore, but I don't have her phone right now. So yeah, they could, but that's up for, that's the thing. That's always the thing about a lease is the owner can change it, the price. That's why you try to do these things with people that you trust or that it seems like they're not going to change it. And that's why a lot of people do like a year, 3 years, whatever, 2 years lease that it's set on that dollar amount. My warehouse right now is month to month. So there is the possibility that the owner could increase the rent. They could, but so far they haven't. Like I said, I don't have it locked in for a certain period of time. It's month to month, and they're very flexible. which is good for me, but potentially bad, like you said, like you say, if they could change it. But it doesn't seem like they will. We'll see after a year if they try to up it. I don't know. But a lot of people have been there for a long time. Majority. So when I moved into the warehouse, there were only 2 open spaces. So this is out of, I believe there's 12 spaces on each side of the building, so 24. So 22 of them were filled, and most of those people, according to the landlord, and as I've gotten to know some of them, have been there a long time, for years. Some of them have been there for like a decade more. I think they've owned that building for a long time, and the building's been there probably decades. I mean, considering how it's probably since the 70s or something, maybe even longer. Um, so, so it seems like they are sticking to, they're not increasing the rent, if at all, not very much, if at all. They just want to keep it occupied and keep the rent payments coming in, because you figure, if I'm sure people that have been there a lot longer maybe are paying less than I am. Huh? Okay. What? Later, Papa. Wait. Um. So, sorry for all interruptions, but anyway, yeah. So my assumption is, well, I don't know though. Maybe they don't owe any money on the building. Maybe it's paid off, so it's all profit. That's the other thing. Maybe the other landlord for the retail space for the bookstore, maybe that building is paid off. Maybe they've owned it for 50 years and it's been paid off for years, and it's all profit, and so they don't need to charge, you know, a ridiculous, but I mean like a lot of money for it, because they just don't need it, or they'd rather just keep the tenant there. I don't know. There's a lot of different situations, but it is possible that they could going forward. That's why, the risk, even if I were to end up taking over the lease, um, that's just, worst case scenario, that I take over the lease in a couple years down the road. The business is profitable, the bookstore is profitable, but let's say they double the lease amount or whatever. Well, I'd have to close it or negotiate, or continue forward and try to make more money. I mean, that's why businesses close all the time, right? Because the owners of the buildings double the rent, triple the rent, whatever, and then it's just no longer affordable for them, so they have to close, look for another location. If they don't find it, then they just go out of business. And I've heard that happen a lot, with bookstores. I heard that happen a lot in New York, where rents can be ridiculous, where bookstores that have been around for like decades, for 20, 30, 40 years, suddenly are closing because they said that their landlord, the building owner, has doubled the rent, has increased the rent dramatically, because the rent in general around the area has gone up, and so they can no longer afford to do business there. So yeah. All right, guys. So thanks for watching. This has been Flippin' Live. I appreciate everybody participating. We're gonna get out of here. Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin' live. We're gonna strive. We're here to learn and gonna earn. Flippin' live, flippin' live, flippin'. Thank you for participating, guys. Saturday. This has been day 35 of Flippin' Live, going live here. Appreciate on a Saturday you guys coming out and watching. This was enjoyable. I enjoy doing the Q&A, and thank you, Brenda, for coming out and answering questions, or just learning from each other, instead of just having a topic. So tomorrow, maybe we'll do half and half. Maybe we'll talk about something and do some Q&A. But have a good day Saturday. Take a break, or go out there and source, depending on what your life is, what's going on. And hopefully you have some good sales and some sourcing or listing or whatever. And have a great day, and stay safe, guys. Make sure and stay safe out there. Take care.